Hi, welcome to my video on evaluating an algebraic expression. To evaluate means to find the value of an expression when a value is substituted in the place of the variable or variables. Let's do some examples. A. Evaluate each expression when x is -2. So that means I have to put a -2 in the place of x. When I do, I put a bracket around the number that I'm substituting in. So there's x squared, so I go a bracket and the x is -2. There's the x, so I put a bracket and I put a -2 in, done. Now when I evaluate, I obey my order of operations, which is extremely, extremely important. So I have to do the inside of my brackets, they're already done. I have to do my exponents first. So -2 squared is -2 times -2 is 4. So let's take one step at a time. Now I have to multiply and divide. So that's 4 plus 3 times -2. So I have to do this multiplication first. Notice I got an addition and a multiplication. I can't, if I add the 4 and the 3, it gets 7, and then multiply by -2, I'm going to be wrong. So that's 4, and when you multiply, you get a -6, and that becomes, that's 4 subtract 6, that's -2. Again, you can do, if you want, plus negative. So 4 add on -6 is -2. But I'm going to should try to get away from adding on plus a negative, but your choice. B, I have to substitute the -2 in. So -2 plus 6. I could put that in a little bracket, but it's not going to serve any purpose. Over here, I have to put it in because that means 3 times this, and that means that's going to be squared. If I don't put the bracket in here, just watch. If I don't put that bracket around the -2, then that becomes 2, that becomes that. And that's, the bracket around the -2 squared is different than the negative of 2 squared. That means that's the negative of 2 times 2. There is a difference. So putting the bracket here is important. If you didn't put it, if you put the bracket around here, it's not going to affect -2 plus 6. It's just going to give you a 4. So you can put the bracket there, but it's not going to affect how you work. But it does affect here, and it does affect here. So sometimes you want to put it in, sometimes you can't. Most times you will put a bracket around the -2 when you substitute it in. 4 times 4 is 16. And notice I had to work out PEMDAS. I forgot to do PEMDAS. When I put the -2 in, I have to do the inside of the brackets first. So I have to add these to get the 4. And then I do the exponent. And -3, x is -2. X is -2. So notice I put a -2 in the place of x, and I put a bracket around each of them. And I have to do PEMDAS, PEMDAS. So I have to do my exponent first. The inside of this is only a -2, so that's okay. And I cube that. Negative times negative is a negative. I got negative times negative. 3 negatives is a negative. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Done. And let's write down the rest of the problem just like it is. Exponent is done. Now I'll go through and underline my multiplications and divisions. There's a multiplication. I like to underline them. You don't have to, but it tells you what you got to do. So I'm going to multiply this. That's a negative times negative is positive. Positive times a negative is a negative. Negative times a negative is positive 14. And now I'm going to, that's multiplication division is done. Now I'm going to add and subtract from left to right. 20 plus 14, I subtract and then add. That's 34. Substitute in -2 in the place of x. And PEMDAS. I got the inside the bracket, has nothing to do. I have no exponent to do. I have to multiply before I subtract. So that's -8 minus 1. Done. And as negative 8 subtract 1 is negative 9. If you want to do plus negative, go ahead. Practice. Evaluate each expression when x is 3. So here we go. Work these out now. Pause the video, work all 5 of these out, and play it back to see if you're right. Put a 3 in the place of x. Yep, it's 3 I gotta do. And PEMDAS, I have done. I only have 3, no exponents, so I have to multiply first, and that's done. And I add, that's an S, negative 4. Notice the multiplication was first anyway, so I had to multiply that before I add it. And I put 3 in the place of x. And I got to do PEMDAS. And as it happens, this is okay because it's in the right order anyway. But 3 is on the inside. I already fully simplified. My exponent is 9. So I do my exponent first, done. Notice I wrote down the other parts of the problem. Now I'll do multiplication, division, left to right. So it's important. Now it's important. I will multiply these two before I deal with the 9 and the 6. That's done. Multiplication, division. And now I add and subtract from left to right. So 9 subtract 12 is negative 3. Negative 3 and 6 is 3. You go from left to right. And here we go for x is 3. I put 3 in place of x, and I got to do PEMDAS. One word that you won't forget, the PEMDAS. I got the 3 substituted in. Don't need a bracket there because this is just a subtraction, but if you can, you want to put a bracket there, go ahead. I have to work the inside of my bracket first. So 3 subtract 6 is negative 3. You can do plus negative if you want. Inside is done. Okay, now I have to do my exponent. So negative 3 squared, negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. So my exponent is done. Now I have to multiply and divide left to right. So that's a multiplication and subtraction. So I multiply 36. And the subtraction is left, 26. So everything is great. And I have to put, in the place of x, put a 3. Put a bracket around it, put the 3 in there. In the place of x, put a 3. Put a bracket around it. And PEMDAS, I have to do, 3's are done, can't do it anymore. That's inside the bracket's done. I have to do my exponent first. So that's 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9, so I have my exponent done. Now I do multiplication, division, left to right, so I have to multiply these two, and multiply these two first before I add. Okay, that's going to be done. Notice as 9 over 1. When I multiply fractions, I cancel. 3 into 3 goes once, 3 into 9 goes 3. So that gives me 6. I could go, if you want, I could go 9, 2 times 9 is 18, 3 times 1 is 3, and get a 6. But when you multiply fractions, you should cancel. Get used to it. 3/8 is 24, and the multiplication division is done, left to right. Now I add, so that's 30. Done. And number 5, I have to put 3 in the place of x. So there's the 3 minus the 1. I could put a bracket around that, but really won't help. I work out the exponent because it's up here, so that's a 2. And 10 squared is 10 times 10. 10 times 10 is 100. I just thought I might do a little one a little bit different, that's all. So you substitute the number in the place of the variable, and then do your PEMDAS. Here we go. Now we have another one, but this time what I've done is I've given you more variables with numbers. X is 3, excuse me, Y is 2, A is negative 2, B is negative 3. So now I had to be careful how I substitute in. So what is x? X is 3. What's b? B is negative 3. Substitution is done. Now I obey PEMDAS. Any 3 and negative 3 is fully simplified, no exponents, and I'm going to do multiplication, division, left to right. So that's a multiplication and a multiplication. So I will do those two. 12, and positive times a negative is a negative. 5 times 3 is 15. They're done. Now I'll subtract or add left to right. 12 subtract 15 is negative 3, or could do plus negative. Here we go again. X is 3, bracket. Y is 2, bracket. A is negative 2, bracket. B is negative 3, bracket. So I put them all in a bracket because that's a multiplication and that's a multiplication understood. That's a multiplication. That's x times y. So I put them in brackets. Now, PEMDAS, PEMDAS. The inside the brackets are all done. No exponents to do. And I do multiplication, division, left to right. So there's underlined the multiplication. That's the multiplication. And that's the multiplication. That's the subtraction. So let's do the multiplication. 6, subtract, multiply those two. And I get 6. Negative times negative is positive. Now I'll subtract last. So 6 subtract 6 is 0. C. A is 3. Oh, A is my mistake. Sorry for that. A is negative 2. Be careful. X is 3. Y is 2. So there, I've got them all substituted in. Now, how you multiply this is your choice. You can go from left to right. So that's negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. And times 2 is 12. So you go left to right. Obey it. You can go negative times a positive times a negative is a negative. And 6 times 2 is 12. You go from left to right. And I got a B is negative 3. Okay. Y is 2. So it's only up there, so we don't really need a bracket on that. Minus A, which is negative 2. I could put a bracket around that too, but because it's in that power by itself, there's no need. So I substituted in the negative 3, the 2, and the negative 2. Now, PEMDAS, PEMDAS. The negative 2 is done, fully simplified, fully simplified. Inside the brackets, I have to do my power. Negative 3 squared. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. Exponent is done. Now I do multiplication, division, left to right, but I don't have any, so I cross that out. Now I add and subtract. That's a double negative. A double negative means I make it positive. And that's plus 2. So 9 plus 2 is 11. I could have put the double negative right here and left that out. I could have left that step out and said double negative is there, so 9 plus 2 is 11 without doing that. Okay, pause the video, work out the 6 of these, and play it back to see if you're right. Here we go. A is negative 2. Oh, do I have the same numbers? It don't make any difference. I just got to follow what's there, because sometimes the numbers could change. X is 3, Y is 2, A is negative 2, B is negative 3, right? I did use the same numbers. So X is 3. B is negative 3. Y is 2. So they're there. And I will do the order of operations, PEMDAS, PEMDAS. And I have inside the brackets are done, no exponents. I will multiply and multiply. So that gives me negative 6, subtract negative 6. Multiplication division is done. There's no division, so I have to multiply and multiply. leaving that subtraction alone till the end. As a double negative, so let's make it a positive, and negative 6 plus 6 is 0. I forgot to put the a in here. There's negative 2. And put the y in as 2. And x is 3. And b is negative 3. So I had more multiplications to do onto this, so I just took it easy, looked at these two and forgot these two. So let's continue with the multiplication. So that's negative 4 plus, that's a negative 9. So I have all my multiplications done. Now I will add, I got a double negative right there, okay, and get rid of the double negative. So that's a 0, that's a 4, negative 9. So this final answer becomes, that's a 0 there, so you scratch them out. So that's a negative 5. Sorry about that, I wasn't careful enough. Let's substitute in. A is negative 2, B is negative 3. I could put brackets here if I want, like that. X is 3, Y is 2. Again, I can put brackets, but because that's an addition, the brackets are really not serving a purpose, but they're still okay. As a negative plus a negative is a negative 5. Notice I have to simplify the top and simplify the bottom first. 5. Now after I get the numerator and denominator fully simplified, I divide and get a negative 1. And let's go with what's A. A is negative 2. Bracket. Y is 2. B is negative 3. And X is 3. I could put a bracket around that, but it's not necessary because that's an addition. So PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S. Inside the brackets first, that's negative 1. Done. My exponent next. Negative 1. Negative 1 to an odd power is negative 1. Because a negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And my power is done, I have to multiply. Only one left. Negative times negative is positive. Y is 2. X is 3. B is negative 3. A is negative 2. So what we have here, we have 2/3. I have 2 negatives. Let's make that a positive, because I should get rid of the negative in the bottom. A fraction should not have a negative in the denominator. Now, I'm subtracting fractions. A little bit different. I need a common denominator. Common denominator for 3 and 2 is 6. So I multiply this one by 3 over 3. Multiply the first one by 2 over 2. That gives me 2 over 2. And that gives me 4 over 6. Subtract 9 over 6. Notice I multiplied by 2 to get the 6 on the bottom. So 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. I multiplied this one by 3 to get the 6. So if I multiply the bottom, the denominator by 3, I got to multiply the numerator by 3. That's a called equivalent fractions. I now have, I want to go with a subtract. I could go with plus negative if you want, or subtract. I keep my denominator 6, and 4 add on negative 9 is negative 5. I could have said 4 subtract 9 is negative 5. And that's done. And number 5, let's be careful. Here we go. X is 3. Y is 2. A is negative 2. B is negative 3. X is 3. And B is negative 3. I could put brackets around these if I want. So let's work out the inside of this first. And the inside, I could do PEMDAS. I have to do the inside this, so I multiply first there and there. So that's 6 plus 6. Negative 2 times negative 3 is 6. And 3 subtract 3. I have to keep going. Now that I got the inside the bracket done, which is 12. So remember, P-E-M-D-A-S. To all substitute in, I have to do the inside of this bracket done. Now I have to work out that exponent up there. 3 subtract 3 is 0. I have my exponent simplified. And 12 to the 0 is 1. And there's nothing else to do. And A, let's do the last one. A is negative 2. B is negative 3. X is 3. And Y is 2. Okay? And we got to keep PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S. So I have to do my exponent first. The negative 2 here and the negative 3 here is already done. They're simplified. So I'm doing my exponent next. Negative 3 cubed is negative 27. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Now, I have a fraction, so I simplify the numerator first. That's a 54. Negative times negative is positive. And then I have to divide. 54 divided by 2 is 27. And that's done. So not to practice on evaluating, but you'll have to do when you do equations of lines, when you substitute an equation to find extra values. To evaluate is extremely important, because really what you're doing is obeying the order of operations, working out the inside the brackets, working out the exponents, working out multiplication, division. So evaluation is just an application of that. Very important. Everything is important in math. Take your time and learn the little things down below, and they build up to what's in the upper grades. Because if your math skills on your fundamentals are strong, your algebra will come out pretty good. Click on my like button and my subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already. Click on the notification bell and write a comment if you wish. If you visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, you get information in 3 different sections. Me, about my degrees and teaching experience. My video section tells you about the teaching strategies you're going to use to help you learn your math. And the content has the topics and the number of videos on the topics. Plus, the black font is what's online right now. And the red font is what will be online in the near future. And that's why you click on the notification bell to receive notification of the videos, the topics that are coming next. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.